Good evening. I am Dave,
And I am Matt.
and we are here to pop you up with Jesus.
All right, so Dave, tonight we're trying to keep him contained a little bit. He has the cone of shame tonight.
Apparently, I've been touching my face a little bit too much.
Yes, let's leave it at the face and go with there. All right, so we want to take any and all comments and our questions. Thank you for logging on. You can type those in, and the musician at the keyboard, Mark, is going to make sure that those questions, comments get to us. We're in John chapter 17, trucking along a little bit. Tonight is one of those topics where you really wonder how much we're going to get to. And with this guy in the room, we have no clue where we're going to go with this. All right, so funneling everything into the right perception. All right, Dave, can you take us into John chapter 17, verse 16?
If your dog ever looks broken when you put them things on her, they are. Okay, verse 16. Just a little back up here. Jesus was praying for his disciples, correct? He's praying to God just to keep them.
This actually contains everything.
Okay.
All right, so you look at the different sections, and Jesus is actually, when he does his ministry, he's very intentional. And so each little section has, like, this is what he's going for. And so we're about to transition even into a different section. But yes, this section is about believers, both the believers that are with him in the garden and the believers that will be later on.
Gotcha. Okay, here we go. Verse 16. Let's see here. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world, of it.
Okay, so tonight, this is a difficult topic to bring up. In talking with Dave before this, we could spend hours and hours on this. We also could get a lot of hate mail on this. We could get very, this is, watered down, or we could get very, bring out the heavy bats and make sure that the law is well kept. So we can go in different directions. Dave, I have no clue where you're going to take this.
If there's any complaints or anybody takes offense, I will give you his cell number. He'll be taking calls all night long.
All right, so looking at this, I've been reading a couple books in the last few years that have really hit home. The first one I read from this group, it's called the Barna Group. The Barna Group does a lot of research for churches. And the first one that came out was Unchristian, talking about how people outside of a church will look inside and basically comment on what they've been seeing. This one also, talking about You Lost Me, mentions how people were born into a Christian family, and by age 18, they don't go to church anymore, and they're really glad about it, and so they interviewed those people. And then this one was a little newer. It's called Church Less, talking about how churches have been in decline. And one of the things that really struck me, Dave, was a quote. This is not an exact quote. This is the quote that how I remember it. And let's get your take on it. When they were doing the research for the book, someone told Barna Research, "Why should I go to church when I have nicer friends who don't go to church than the people that they know that go to church?" So they're saying
people on the outside are nicer than the people on the inside.
Correct.
The people on the inside are supposed to be nicer.
Is that a struggle?
Well, it should be a characteristic of. Well, what are some characteristics of a Christian?
I'm asking you.
I'm throwing it back at you. No.
This is a ping pong match.
Well, I've got, from John 13, verse, what is that? 34. A new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, men will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. So basically, love one another. I don't mean all gushy and gooey and stuff like that, but just looking out for each other, caring for each other, looking, that kind of a thing.
Cool. Does it bother you that people who are not in church, especially the young people, hear that verse? Especially when they come to church, that we should love one another, and they don't see love inside of a church?
What kind of an attitude are they bringing in when they come in? Are they bringing a predisposition like this is what they've heard, this is their feeling towards church? Are they coming in with that, or are they coming in with an open mind?
Yeah, don't know. It just, here's the books, Dave. There's a lot of research in here, but it does bug me.
Will that come out on a video at all?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm talking to another guy. All right, so the problem sometimes in my head is I agree with them. Not going in necessarily any order is, have you been watching any of the news lately? I mean, a lot of the stuff on the news is highlighting what's happening during this pandemic. And there's a lot of good stuff out there. And
Yep.
the problem is I'm not seeing a lot of Christian churches getting their names out there by what they're doing. Now, that could be that there's so much good out there that the TV stations are having a problem covering everybody. But at the same time, there is two things I'm seeing in churches. How do we stay alive, and how do we reach out to people in this pandemic? And so the two are in opposites. How do we pile in numbers, and how do we reach out with our numbers?
Well, have we been dormant for so long that there's nobody, that people just don't step up and take the initiative anymore?
The question is, who's we? Because the we is, or could be, the Christian church in the United States, the Christian church around the world, or is the we, are we specifically talking about our congregation? Because if we just want to talk about Christians, not every Christian church out there acts like every other one. I mean, some
That's
of
true.
them are a lot different. Even Lutheran churches are different. And even Lutheran churches like to pick fights with other Lutheran churches. I mean, sometimes we just don't get along. And we have different reasons for why we exist. And that's difficult to go over when you disagree with someone that much.
Well, that's one of the biggest problems there is division.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Right.
It really is. Whose haircut is better? Yours or mine? All right.
Well, I might be cutting my own this week, so we'll see what it looks like next week.
Great. Can't wait to see what color it comes in. All right, excellent. So that kind of thing. You make a really good point. They'll know if you're abiding in my love, if you love one another. And that is a difficult thing, because how do you love someone that you don't know or never met? And then on the other side of that, does that mean that every single person I see on the road from the church to my house is someone I have to literally stop the car for and tell them, hey, I love you. Did you know that?
Well, there's different definitions of love too. It's not like how you doing. It's more like the you love them, you respect them.
What was that, Dave?
How you doing, Joey from Friends?
All right. All right, time to ask okay, so just going further on that, just one of the questions I was kind of thinking in my brain is, if followers are marked by how others see them, would anyone want to be a Christian? And what I mean is, when I'm listening to two people, not necessarily argue, but kind of debate. I don't know if you go on, you probably don't do that. I go on and watch debates between Christians and non-Christians.
Okay.
And to try to pick up on what each side is saying. And one of the things was just like this, is if I look at Christians, do I see Jesus? And if I don't see Jesus inside those walls, why would I ever want to step foot into that place ever again? And even like you heard of the guy Bono.
Yep.
Bono said very similar things. Very similar things. And he professes to be Christian. And he said, I don't want to step into a Christian church if I don't see that the Christians are acting Christian. That's a struggle for me.
Why would you want to go in some place that's not inviting to you?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so that is something that we probably struggle with. And now I think we're going to struggle with that even more. How do you invite someone into, with a group of believers, on top of that saying, okay, are you going to be having a clean and virus-free atmosphere? I mean, that's even more on top of that. That's going to be kind of interesting to see how we go with that. But that's not exactly where, I mean, we've touched on that, and I don't have an answer for you. I really, I just want to pick on you and see where you go with
That's
that.
all good.
Because that is something I would hope that some of my sermons have been talking about, is how do we as a congregation, I've always told you, and you're pretty good at that. Some people, though, love their spots. They love to sit in a spot, which is good because you know whether they're there every week. But at the same time, I've also done funerals for some church members who, quite literally, someone would be sitting there and they would come up to them and say, excuse me, you're in my spot.
Well, speaking of characteristics, that's how you can tell somebody is Lutheran. You're in my spot, otherwise if you hear potluck, the necks just snap, just like somebody held squirrel.
Yeah. So on that is you struggle with, this is how I'm comfortable versus, oh, you're in my spot, great, can I sit next to you?
Right.
Because I don't mind sitting in the spot next to you. Now it's put up your arm, I'll put up my arm, we gotta be this far away.
That is going to be different.
It is. It's gonna be weird.
Safety's going to have to come first, and protocols.
And I won't be able to preach.
No shaking hands.
Oh, it's gonna be so odd, isn't it? I mean, it's gonna be one of those things where I can't even stand back here, because
Right.
I can't have people coming up. It is gonna change the face of what church is. So who's gonna greet you? Who is gonna say hello? We're still going to kind of check it in with that.
Yeah.
But of how do we show people love that we want them to come back the next week, even in the midst of, we want them to hear God's word and feel like this is a place that they're loved, and that's a struggle.
And it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Close contact is going to be out the door.
Yeah, that's going to be really weird. All right.
So when they're saying,
You ready for this one?
sure.
Have you ever felt uninvited when visiting another church?
I guess I've had it both ways. We were up at one place where you walked in and it just felt warm. It felt like a family. Just different atmospheres.
Okay.
Other one I've been to, people don't always come up. People get comfortable in their cliques or in their groups where sometimes they don't step out of their group to come and say hi to visitors.
Right.
So you're just kind of walking around. And how about you? I'm sure you've been to a few different churches.
Actually, my last year at seminary, we were free to visit other churches, and so I went around church after church after church after church and visiting and just taking mental notes. And I was going through a pastoral leadership institute 4 years, and we would go to different churches, and I wouldn't always sit with like my group. I would just walk to see if anyone would say hello to me. The problem being is that didn't happen, even though I was just walking around, not once. And I just began to wonder, okay, where is the part where I hope someone says hello versus I really hope 50 people don't mug me when I get in there, and I really think that even having one or two people that just do that naturally can make a difference. And what would happen if those 2 or 3 people, not corona, but they infected 2 or 3 other people, and so you had 6 people now, and 6 people would watch out, because I can almost guarantee you in the next year we will have a few people that are coming inside these doors wanting to know, is Jesus real?
Oh, yeah.
And what is it? I've heard a quote that people know whether they're going to come back to that church the next week within the first like 5 to 10 minutes.
Well, you always got to feel when somebody new comes in here, they're going to be nervous.
Yeah, yeah.
And like you said, you can't have 50 people mob them when they come in,
Yeah.
which isn't fun either.
And if you were wearing the cone of shame, what would they run right there? So, yeah, you don't want something that's too formal and not formal enough. It's gonna, we might miss a few people. On the other hand, it is very painful when I see someone go through the line and walk right out the door.
Right.
So where is that tension? And I can remember some of the best, when I was in college, someone literally caught me before I left the door and said, "Where are you eating lunch?"
Cool.
And that was like, wow. Unfortunately, some of that time was it was the pastor. And on the other end, we don't want necessarily our congregation members doing that with people we have no clue who they are, and then something happens.
Yeah.
So you can't really say on every point, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, there is no sure procedure for every person because everybody's different.
Okay, so now that we've, this is the problem. The two of us could be talking for the whole entire night. Here's what I wanted to bring about in your mind is, does it ever seem like you become less loving the more you go to church?
Well, I think depends. If you're the person that comes here and doesn't participate and just puts their hour in and they're done,
Okay.
you don't get a lot out of church. Or even as, you don't get a lot out of the community of the church, what it's there for, being with people.
So what's your encouragement off of that?
What was the question again?
Right, so, okay, so Andy Stanley, he is a leader of leaders.
Yep.
Pastor in Atlanta, he said, the more you're part of an organization, not necessarily church, but organization, the less likely you are to see things how they are.
You get caught up into a group, you get used to doing the same things over and over and over again, and then you just become kind of docile and don't do nothing.
It's like even that spot on the wall where little Timmy broke something off, and we don't do anything about it, and 10 years later it's still there because we just got accustomed. Do we get accustomed to seeing the same people in our spots and not going over and saying, no, I'll give up my spot, I'm going to go make sure that I know who that person is, or I'm going to make sure that, you know what, we want them to know, hey, I don't want to bug you, but really glad to see you and hope you're back here next week.
Right.
So, but also, what I hope is that we're not going to Walmart. Have you ever heard this? Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent tonight.
Run with it.
Okay, so I remember this sermon from back in 2001. 2001, the pastor was talking, and he went to Walmart. Remember when they had greeters?
Oh, yeah.
My dad wanted to be a greeter at one time. He wanted to retire from the ministry and just say, just be at Walmart and just be able to say hello to people. That's what he wanted to do in his retirement. And so the pastor went up to one of these greeters and said, "Hey, what's the time shift, work time that you would say is the time that is the worst time to work, based on what's the saddest?" And it's interesting that the comment that came back to that pastor is the same that I've heard from every single waitress except for one, is that the worst time to work is Sunday morning, because that's when all the Christians would come in right after church and treat them like garbage.
Wow.
I've even heard that from cops who pull people over and they're dressed in their Sunday best.
Nobody likes a ticket.
I never said
I'm
anything
just
about ticket.
kidding.
But isn't that, luckily I asked a waitress here, I was like, what, the same thing, and she said, no, the Christians around here have been awesome. And so I love to hear that, and I hope to hear more of that. But across the country, more and more, that's what I've heard, is Sunday morning, after church is over, is when people have been degraded the most.
Yeah, I have not heard that.
Okay, so that, as a pastor and hearing that sermon, that, you gotta ask me about the potato sermon later. That, trust me, man, I've preached and I've heard enough sermons in my life to go around. Okay, so, do you think there's stereotypes in the world?
Well, there's always stereotypes, but can you tell by looking at a certain person what religion they are?
Good question. I mean, a really good question. I mean, do you think that there are some appearances that would lead you in a different direction, like, well,
Their physical dress.
Yeah, yeah. One of them being, if I was in Saudi Arabia and I saw a woman, and she was in the full covering where you can't even see your eyes, my first guess is she's not a Christian. My first guess. Could be, it's just they're just blending into the
That's
culture.
the culture.
Yeah, and sometimes I have heard that in order to reach out to that community, that's what missionaries have to do.
Right.
So I don't want to get in too far, but one of the things, Mennonites. Can you spot a Mennonite?
With the cap.
The little black cap, yeah, all right. The women.
Yep.
What
Long
would they do?
dresses.
Long dresses. What else?
There's some other ites too that I don't remember, but there's some other ones. like that.
Amish, right? And the little bonnet with the
Yep.
women. And then if they're driving somewhere, it's the horse and buggy still.
Right.
And not even lights on there. They have the little, that's why they're getting ran over, is because people are going so fast on highways they can't see them at night. What else? Can you spot Mormon missionaries?
Mormons. Do they have the elder thing on there?
Yeah, okay. The elder, the little thing, their name, all right? Okay, and one of the things just recently, I know this is a tangent again, is during this virus, there has been a father-daughter who have been doing songs from Disney. They're doing that, and he is amazing singing, and she's really good too. Have you heard about that?
Caitlin, wait till I get home, honey.
Great, but they're really good. And so I was looking at them, and I'm like, this is too good. I mean, I knew something was up. And they were advertised, they're like Good Morning America kind of thing. They were advertised on there because they're really good singing together.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at them and say, this is, so I Googled them, and they were from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So they were Mormon. And I knew, because no facial hair, no whatsoever, very clean cut. The girl was very pietistic, what we might call. And so therefore, I almost knew right away. Jehovah's Witness will be a lot like this, is that the basic requirement is this is what you wear, especially the Sunday morning. Now, can you pick out a Lutheran? If you have 10 people in a line, could you pick out the one Lutheran?
Or even just a Christian?
Sure.
Or Lutherans. Like I said, Lutherans the potluck and the get out of my seat thing.
Okay, could be. All right, but if they're wearing a crucifix, would you say they're people of faith?
That could be a 50-50, because some people don't, just get it because it looks cool.
Yeah, I remember Madonna used to wear one, a huge one back in the 80s, 90s. But it's tough because it's a piece of jewelry.
Right.
So that's tough to figure out.
Just by looking, I don't think there's any physical marks on the person. Now, how they act, that might be a different thing.
Okay.
If you can see that they're, but.
Because all these other ones we've talked about, you can see, there's an appearance.
Yeah.
That every single one of them, maybe not a one or two, but every single one of them is going to look very similar.
Now, if you had the collar on, I'd probably say you're a Christian. Possibly a teacher.
Don't know, but maybe. But that's going along the lines of you know what, it is a stereotype, but at the same time, some stereotypes are, if you line up 10 of them, and you could almost pick them out that okay, you're wearing the same stuff. So as Christians, it's very difficult for us because we're in the culture, and the question that we're kind of bringing up is, are we of the culture? Can you live inside a culture and keep your faith, and yet be inside this culture. Because you talk about Luther, and when Luther went in to become a monk, one of the things is you would go away from the culture, because though the culture is sinful, what you do is you get closed inside this monastery, and therefore reduce sin.
That's the only thing you're absorbing is the word. I mean, there's no outside distractions.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things about, okay, when you go away from there and go out back into the world, I mean, the world is very can be destructive.
Was that the thought that they were getting away from sin or getting away from temptation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so that's kind of what we want to. Now that we've almost run out of time, that is the question that we really wanted to get into tonight: is how can someone be a Christian and be a person of faith, and yet be a person that is going to say, I'm going to stop doing this whole thing that the culture is doing, because that is difficult, right there. I would say that it's easy to pick up on something which the culture does. Songs. Do you have any songs that you would say that are very popular right now?
I mean, I like a lot of different kind of music.
I just hear, I'm very pleased because my son does the dance thing on his, and some of the songs he'll look at me and say, I'm not going to do that because that's inappropriate. And that is like, wow, as a dad, it's like, but this morning,
And right after you leave,
this morning he was singing a song, and I'm like, how do I teach my son that what he's singing right now is something that's very destructive or going to be destructive? Because the world is trying to capture my son's mind. I believe that boys become aware of certain things by the age 8, and the industry that sells women knows that if they can get a boy's mind hooked by like age 10, he's hooked for life. For life.
wow.
And so that is a difficult, I mean, you've had all daughters.
Yeah.
All right, this is how do you, or have you, no, I don't want to ask that. Is there anything about being a dad to daughters that when they come down the stairs and say, yeah, I'm going on a date or I'm going out with friends, and you look at what they're wearing, can you have, as a dad, say, excuse me?
Oh, they'll both know this. I've said, where's the rest of your shorts? Guys, they bring them down past the knee, and the girls, I'm like, really?
So what?
No, they weren't going up, but just wearing, and I'm like, what do you even have that for?
So can you still do that as a dad?
Well, with my girls, we talk about everything, so I can say, what I think.
Do they say, hey, you're sweet, dad, and just go out the door?
What was that?
Oh, Dad, thanks for caring.
Yeah, well,
Where's that tension as a father, and you look at that, and you want to not lead them and say, because one thing we do is, back when I was your age, and they come back and say, back when we were your age, you were doing some stuff you shouldn't have, and we could say, yes, I know, that was me. And they could say, well, let me make my own mistakes.
well, I know it sounds hypocritical, but we're here to try to steer you straight,
Yeah. How do you, is there any tension to say, march yourself up to your room and put on something more? I mean, how do you teach?
Well, they used to send them home from, my daughters, I don't think ever got sent home. But if your shorts were too short or your shirt, they would send you home.
Yeah, I remember that. I got sent home one time because it wasn't fully over my knee. It was long, but wasn't fully over my knee. I remember that. That was very tough. 5th grade. But how do you teach young ladies to capture, if they're dating, to capture his mind rather than persuade his thoughts?
Don't get the question. Try it again. Now you're talking with the guys, right?
Yeah.
That they're dating? Well, what I do know is they take a look at the relationship that I have with Julie, and they see how a guy's supposed to treat a girl and vice versa. So when they're out there, if they see if their date's not treating them nice, they're gonna pick up on that, and
Okay.
hopefully say, this isn't it. I remember one guy was dating my daughter, and he asked if it's okay to swear in front of your parents, in front of her parents, and I'm like, well, we'll see you, buddy.
Because one of the things, because I remember two instances very vividly, and the daughter was not dressed. I mean, it was like, oh my goodness, 14, 15, somewhere around there. And they asked the parent, and the mom was like, well, she's only going to have this body for a couple more years. Why not flaunt it?
I see where you were going with that. My kids didn't leave the house half dressed, and they were more modest, where they wouldn't have worn, too many things. Well, back when my oldest one was in, you wore like 12 tank tops on top of each other. That was the in thing then. So.
I remember that. Yeah, that was like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air kind of stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah, I remember that. But that's the kind of the conversation we want. I mean, do we want to? So, Mark, thumbs up, thumbs down. As far as I know, there's going to be a delay based on people typing in. We actually want to hear people. Should we close down this conversation, or should we? Continue on next week, because I think this is an important conversation, especially because there aren't very many girls going on dates right now. If they're in their teens, you had your girls.
All
Mark,
the dads.
I want to hear from Mark.
All the dads
He's got-
gotta love Zoom.
He's got 3 teenage boys at home. I would love to just drag him into this conversation and sit him down. It's like, what are you going to do for your sons with this? To be in the world, but not of the world. And how do you tell them, when you come back, I want the father to call and say, that was the best that any guy has ever treated me that's taken out my daughter,
Right.
kind of thing. I don't know if we've lost that kind of respect that goes with them. I don't know. Mark, I would love to see Mark pick up the phone and call the person's dad and say, excuse me, what did you think of my son on a scale of 1? You can't really do
Good luck with that one, buddy. No, but when I hear of the world, I think of people falling into the culture and going along with the rest of the crowd, and just letting it all go and everything's fine. You hang around with the people that do the same bad things that you do, so it feels okay. And the important thing is to teach your kids not to follow the herd.
Yeah.
We disciplined our kids, when they got punished when it was time for punishment, and brought them up that way, so they knew right from wrong.
Because even nowadays, it's wrong to punish your kids.
Whatever. If you want that kid screaming at the top of their lungs in Walmart, you go right ahead and give them everything they want.
I've all you have to do is Walmart meltdown, and you get videos popping up like crazy.
Yeah.
But there also is, I've come across, that is as difficult. I remember a prof from SEM saying, if you haven't taught your kids no by age 2, you're going to have problems later.
We were talking about that in Bible class. We're talking with the parenting one this last weekend, and I basically said, people come up to you when your kids are teenagers, oh my gosh, what's it like having a kid as a teenager? And it's like, you just roll with the punches, because your first 3 years are going to, whether your kid's going to be screaming in the grocery store or not, and the next 4 to 12 or 13, or the next 4 to 10 years, are going to be them watching you as an example. When they get on their own, out in the teenage driving, you roll with the punches. You hope and pray to God that they're safe, and that's all you can do.
Yep.
Makes it fun, though. It's interesting.
Yep. All right, so we're going to be looking for you guys to text in here or comment. Is this Facebook? Can you comment later? your comments on whether we should take this even further, or maybe there's a direction that you as a parent, or even if you're a teenager and you're watching this and you're wondering, are your parents taking this too far? All right, so I'll give you Dave's texting number, and you can text him all night long. But we want to hear from you because we would love to see this answer some questions. We hope this is not like late night, a Jimmy Fallon kind of thing.
That wouldn't be all bad either.
No, that's awesome. But we would like to know where you would like to take some of this content. And this one verse, literally, we could talk for hours on this because there's a lot of different things to talk about, and we only made it. We still have this much to go right here. We have that much to go just on this one verse, and so we can still talk about this, but we want to wrap it up today. As long as Mark gives us the thumbs up, we have to wait 30 seconds. That means I have to ramble a little bit.
One other thing I wanted to say about the kids is as they get to be teenagers, they come to find out that
Everything my dad ever talks to me about has got to be a teaching moment.
Are you worried that your daughter is watching right now?
oh, I hope she is actually.
All right, so that's pretty much where we're going to wrap it up. I don't see Mark giving us the thumbs up yet. All right, 2 thumbs up, meaning, all right, no one's typed anything in yet. Hopefully people are out there. Or else maybe the world has come to an end and we're still left on here. The rapture has already happened. All right, maybe not. But this is where we want to leave it. Dave, you want to pray us out?
Yep, and if it was Sunday school and they asked for prayer, I used to always say Cole, but he's not here, so I'm going to have to do it, I guess. Lord God, Heavenly Father, thank you again for this day, beautiful sunshine, and for the technology to get this out to people. And also, please be with our seniors this year as high school and college kids are going through no graduation. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, so live from the Narthex, I'm Matt,
And I'm Dave.
and we'll see you next week.